Protests scheduled across America today, the fatal shooting in Minneapolis is also igniting tensions on Capitol Hill. Democrats are raging about ICE's actions and their Republican colleagues' reactions to it. There was a heated exchange on the House floor Wednesday between two Minnesota lawmakers, Democrat Angie Craig and Republican Majority Whip Tom Emmer. Craig said she wanted to address Emmer's social media posts defending ICE's actions. Congresswoman Craig is joining us now. Congresswoman, can you talk a little bit about this debate that you had with Tom Emmer and your reaction to his response?
Well, look, I was outraged, just like every Minnesotan and every American, for what Trump's ICE is doing in Minnesota and across this country. You know, Tom Emmer is someone who I've served with for 8 years in the U.S. House of Representatives. He's the third top ranking Republican in that party. He has direct access to Donald Trump. This political stunt that the Trump administration pulled in Minneapolis this week got Renee Good killed. And that's what I told him on the House floor. Look, these Republicans in Congress right now, they don't want to take responsibility for the conflict and the lack of judgment by this lawless administration. And look, what you saw was a pissed off Congresswoman on the House floor.
Congresswoman, as I say often, you are my alma mater's Congresswoman. The Carleton College is in Northfield, Minnesota. And I know ICE has made its presence known in Northfield. And I am wondering what you are hearing from your constituents since ICE showed up in the community, but especially since the killing of Renee Good in Minneapolis.
Well, Jonathan, that's exactly right. I was with Carleton students on the steps of the Capitol yesterday before I left Washington, D.C., and I was in touch in Northfield with the city yesterday. And what's interesting is that, the police chief was there. And I think what we all have to understand is ICE's presence in Minnesota, in our communities, is not making us more safe. You know, we should all, as members of Congress, be most interested in making sure that our communities are safe. But our local law enforcement, it's been a really tough 5 years here in Minnesota. They have worked really hard to restore trust across Minnesota with Minnesotans in their policing tactics. What you saw in that video that the officer himself took, he didn't feel like he was in imminent danger. He had his cell phone out, rounding that car. It is absolutely ridiculous. And now what you've seen, Jonathan, is, J.D. Vance has to come out and play cleanup for ICE Barbie because her ICE, the Trump administration's ICE, is out of control in our communities.
Congresswoman Craig, ICE Barbie that you're referring to, Secretary Kristi Noem, Congresswoman Kelly of Illinois, Robin Kelly of Illinois, has been drafting articles of impeachment for Kristi Noem. I think she's been doing that for some time now. Are you supportive of that effort, and do you think that House Democrats should push to impeach Kristi Noem?
Yes, I'm working directly with Robin Kelly of Illinois in those articles of impeachment. This week, we hope it's going to come back soon. It's a robust draft. It's been with what's called Ledge Council. Look, at the day, Kristi Noem is lawless. She is not. This administration is not following any laws in our country, and that's what makes this so dangerous for our communities. The fact that our local law enforcement, too, has no coordination from ICE. And look, again, we spent a lot of time trying to restore trust in Minnesota through law enforcement, to recruit local police officers. And at this point, ICE is making local law enforcement's job much more difficult, and they need to leave Minnesota. That's my message. And then I'm going to add this. They shouldn't be in our schools. They shouldn't be in our daycares. They shouldn't be in our churches. I have legislation that would prohibit them from doing just that. And by the way, they should all be wearing body cameras, and it shouldn't be optional. We should be able to see at all times what's happening with this arrogant, out of control law enforcement department.
Congresswoman, really quickly, how many is leadership of the House Democrats in support of the impeachment effort? Have you guys talked to them about this?
Well, look, we've been working to draft the articles of impeachment. We're going to be talking to House leadership about this. And look, at the end of the day, we can all see with our own eyes. And that is why this has been so difficult for the Trump administration to clean up. Even yesterday, with J.D. Vance releasing this second video, it just raises more questions. And there has to be an independent investigation. For there to be true unity and trust in Minnesota, local officials, U.S. Attorney, the AG, Keith Ellison, we've got to have our local attorneys involved in this process.
And Congresswoman, before we run out of time, I want to get back to the presence of ICE in your community. Minneapolis Mayor Jacob Frey wrote in the New York Times in an opinion column that the administration was sending a message to the entire country. If you show up for your immigrant neighbors or even are simply present when those neighbors are taken, your rights will not be protected by the law and your life will be at risk. When I saw this shocking video of Renee Good, the first thing I thought about are the people I know and the protesters who are part of these ICE alerting networks who are trying to be on the lookout for their neighbors. How are you going to ensure, what do you have to say to those people today about whether or not it is safe for them to continue engaging in this kind of community activity?
Well, look, these are constitutional observers. They have every right to be there. And the expectation we should have from ICE agents is that they are properly trained, which many of them have not been, and that when they enter a situation, that they do not escalate it. What we saw in that video is that ICE escalated this situation, that this didn't have to happen in our community. And I would say to our community, look, we have to keep showing up for each other. This is an incredibly difficult time in our community, but we cannot stop showing up. We cannot stop speaking out. And as a member of Congress from this community, you sure better bet I won't.
Amen. Congresswoman Angie Craig, Minnesota, thank you very much for coming to The Weekend.